I'm Prachi Mohan, and I'm a product manager on the Meta Avatars SDK team. My team's mission is to help you integrate avatars into your apps right out of the box, so that you can bring a deep sense of immersion, embodiment, and presence for your users. Let's take a look at what you can do today, what's coming up in the future, and last but not least, you'll hear from fellow developers about how the SDK opened up new opportunities for them. Last year, we launched the Meta Avatars SDK for Unity on VR, and since then, the developer community integrating avatars has grown substantially. Here are some ways we've seen developers really uplift their experience. Before Golf Plus integrated Meta Avatars, users could see their putter floating around, but not necessarily get a sense of holding them. Adding Meta Avatars made that experience feel more real, because players could see each other and there was just this feeling like you were there with a friend. Forever Bowl built social areas and environments so that their users could hang out together and have meaningful social interactions with each other. We're just beginning to tap into fun, creative, and delightful avatar experiences that give users a real sense of embodiment and presence. And it's going to be really exciting to see what else you all create in the future. So let's talk about some of the key components that make this possible today. Reconciling hand and head positions with a realistic 3D model of a human being is really hard. But we've spent years researching this problem to create highly realistic body poses using our body tracking, simulated eye gaze, and hand gesture technology. This helps users not only feel present in your experience, but gives them whole new ways of interacting with each other. We've heard from you and users that customization is really important. Every human being has a unique way of representing themselves. So we're giving users a diverse set of choices so that they can authentically represent themselves and show up in as many different outfits as they like. And last but not least, we've made multiple enhancements to the SDK that makes avatars load faster, render better, and improves body tracking. Now here's what's coming up. We're expanding Meta Avatar SDK support across platforms and engines. Coming soon, the SDK will support Unreal Engine for VR developers. We're expanding SDK support on Unity for both iOS and Android to help developers build cross-platform experiences. We'll be testing these with a small group of developers before making it broadly available. Next, we'll be launching an overlay editing experience that will let users edit their avatar without having to leave the experience they're in. Many of you told us that this was challenging, but now it'll be much easier to edit your avatar in apps that deep link into our editor. Another key update is that you will get access in the near future to full body avatars and accompanying tech that will enable you to implement and customize actions and behaviors unique to your experience in a low-friction way. Imagine being able to run alongside your friend on the London Bridge, or jump up and down and celebrate a win. It's all going to be possible soon. And finally, the Meta Avatars SDK will support our soon-to-be-released headset, the Meta Quest Pro, where our new APIs will allow you to explore more natural facial expressions to enhance that immersion for your users. So go ahead and check out our Avatars developer page to learn more about our SDK for Unity. We can't wait to see the new ways you'll bring Meta Avatars into your experiences and deepen that sense of engagement for your users. And now, my co-host, Megan Rolfe, will be talking to a few developers about their experience integrating the Meta Avatars SDK.
Thanks, Prachi. Those are some really exciting updates we've got coming down the pipeline. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Megan Rolfe, and I'm a researcher here at Meta. Today, we have some great guests joining us who are going to share their experiences with integrating the Meta Avatars SDK in their VR apps. We have Yaz Hatay, who's a senior software engineer at FitXR. He has spent the past 9 years developing, designing, and producing digital content for virtual reality, video games, and experiential installations. Yaz and his team released the Meta Avatars SDK in May of this year to help achieve their mission of making working out accessible and fun for everyone. Then we have Ryan Engel. He's the founder and CEO of Golf Plus. He started this company in October 2017 and began developing for the Quest headset in July 2019. Golf Plus has been using the Meta Avatars SDK since it became available for integration. And last but not least, we have Dariush Zarizadeh, the CTO at Lucky VR. He's a longtime metaverse enthusiast who dove in full-time after falling in love with the Oculus Rift DK1. And Lucky VR is the development partner for PokerStars VR, which was actually a launch partner for the Meta Avatars SDK. And they've been working with our avatar system ever since. Okay, so let's get started. I would first love for each of you to briefly explain, why did your team integrate the Meta Avatars SDK to begin with? What problems was your team trying to solve for? Ryan, do you want to kick us off?
For sure. Thanks for asking. So for us, it was pretty simple. We're a golf application. Golf is a very social activity. And in order to let people play via multiplayer, we really wanted an avatar solution that made you feel like you were on the golf course with other people. So we wanted something that was incredibly expressive, where you could kind of see, smiles, see the eyes moving around, something that wasn't distracting from the natural environment that we have. And the Meta Avatar solution worked out really well for that. It was really easy to integrate, and it was really nice to know that it would continue to improve without engineers on our team having to do the heavy lifting. So we picked it, and it's worked really well for us ever since.
And Dariush?
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, in any social experience, interaction between players is key. And depending on the game, that could be any combination of voice chat, video chat, and other character interactions. With the launch of VR, you have now a fidelity of interaction that's completely unrivaled by any other platform. And it lends itself really well to high fidelity avatar solutions. So a scalable future-facing avatar system is essential to maximize the potential for interaction between players in VR. And that's what really drives our game to a level that, historically you haven't been able to do in online poker, blackjack, whatever, because you've missed those personal interactions that you get between players. And the Meta Avatars SDK is one of the most robust technical solutions available on the market. So it's honestly kind of a no-brainer for us to go with it.
And yes?
In FitXR, you can actually participate in multiplayer classes. You can choose a box stance or a high intensity interval training workout, and you can exercise together with up to 6 players. And in addition to the multiplayer, we also have a single player community mode. Other players join you as ghosts that are recordings from their earlier workout sessions. So we have these two modes where we utilize avatars. Before integrating Meta Avatars, our existing avatars were not customizable and lacking expression. And knowing that avatars are fundamental components of social presence that let users represent themselves in an authentic way. So that's one of the reasons why we really wanted to integrate Meta Avatars, because they bring highly expressive and customizable avatars. And this is increasing the VR immersion and enhancing the workout experience.
Amazing. Thanks so much. I especially like hearing about how the SDK can really enhance the social experience in your games for all these different situations and layer onto real life experiences. So great, thanks. We originally built this product to provide developers with high quality avatar solution that can deepen feelings of immersion, embodiment, and social presence for users. But was there any additional benefit to integrating the Meta Avatar SDK that you hadn't quite anticipated? Dariush, do you want to take this one?
Absolutely, yeah. So I've personally always been a big fan of having like arms in VR for the player, but I was shocked at how valuable arms were in social games for players other than yourself. When the IK matches up right, and it does a lot of the time with the work that the Avatar team has done, honestly, probably one of the best IK solvers I've ever used. Those arms actually add so much emotion to other players that was lacking in previous iterations when you have just floating hands. So in a social iGaming scenario, the more emotive the avatars, the closer you can get to actual, true poker tells, and the arms help hugely with that, and that's not something I was really expecting.
Awesome. And yes?
Yes. So having we weren't really anticipating having a significant amount of control over the factors that are affecting the performance. Our existing avatars were pretty lightweight, and before integrating Meta Avatars, we were a bit concerned about a potential performance hit. When started working with the SDK, we saw that there were a variety of options to optimize avatars performance. For instance, there are different shaders that come with the SDK. It's possible to fine-tune the avatars for the best performance and the visual quality by choosing the right shader for your project. And built-in level of detail management, ability to choose between CPU and GPU skinning. These are just a small amount of features that you can tweak with Meta Avatars SDK. So this is the main surprise we had, because it gave us so much power.
Finally, Ryan, what was your experience here?
Yeah, it was really a phenomenal experience. We had not used a different avatar system prior, so we didn't really know what to expect. And prior to the Meta Avatars, we just kind of had hats and your golf club in your hand. So we were a little bit nervous about the integration, and we weren't sure what to expect. The main thing that we were nervous about was our game only uses one controller. So we really didn't know what was going to happen to your non-dominant hand, and we didn't know how much control we would have over that, or if it would, your hand would get into awkward positions. Thankfully, we were able to kind of get the initial integration done very quickly, and very quickly found that we have, kind of complete control over that hand, and we can even tell the system that the hand is not being used so that it stays in a natural position and kind of has subtle movements that feel very, very accurate. And then when you're going to hit a shot, we're able to take control of that hand and make sure that it's connected to the club so that players don't look like they're swinging with one arm, which was great. An added benefit that we didn't really anticipate is we ended up building a replay system. So after you hit a shot, you can watch a replay of it. And of course, we wanted to see that replay with your avatar. And very quickly, we were able to get the avatar set up so that you could see your swing, you could see the avatar swinging. And it was amazing at how much feedback we got from our players that said just watching themselves swing and seeing their swing from a third person perspective enabled them to kind of identify, swing issues or things that they were working on, or just kind of body movements that were unexpected, and including head position and hand position and things that are pretty technical for a golfer. So that was a huge added benefit that we didn't expect, and the control that we got to kind of put the hand in the right position and for the IK to line up the way that it did was really delightful.
I love hearing that. It's so cool when users end up utilizing new features in that exciting or enthusiastic way. So thanks for that. So Ryan, you actually started tapping into my next question, which is, in what way has the SDK changed the user's experience? Has it unlocked anything that wasn't quite possible before? I would love for Yas to kick us off here.
In our user community, it's quite common to see our users sharing screenshots from FitXR, showing their workout statistics, achievements, or high scores. However, when we released Meta Avatars integration, we started seeing different type of contents coming to our social channels in our community. And these were related to avatars. Users were posting screen captures of avatars where they posed together in our multiplayer lobby, and they also were sharing their gameplay sessions where there were lots of random funny moments that they shared. So I think we can say that this is a reflection of the enhanced sense of embodiment, immersion, and presence that Meta Avatars brought to FitXR.
Awesome. I hope you and your team did the same and created your own avatar screenshots and cool poses as well. Cool. Okay, now, Dariush, how about on your end?
Yeah, so for us, with the sheer amount of just customization available in this SDK, we've seen players really get into like the nitty gritty and really go all out to express their truest self with the avatar system, which is what you want from an avatar system, right? In terms of customizability, it's a huge step up from the older SDK, especially right now. It's improved a ton since launch, and that continues to be the case. The team is working very hard on it. We can tell as the updates come out, and we see the level of interaction, the level of what's happening in the face. There's wrinkles now. There's a lot of stuff that's improved since launch. So there's also some really cool stuff in the pipeline that I'm sure I can't talk about yet, but it's super exciting to us. And just the overall improvements we've seen have been incredible.
Wow, that's so awesome to hear. Thanks. So now let's switch gears and talk about the more technical side of things. How is the actual integration process in terms of getting the Avatars SDK working on your app? Dariush, do you want to take this one?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we actually came from the older SDK, and any migration is going to have its difficulties, obviously, but the pain was actually really reduced for this. And I think a lot of that comes down to the work that was done by the Avatar team to make sure that moving from V1 to V2 was as seamless as possible. We worked very closely with them pre-launch to make sure a lot of the pain points we would face were actually resolved before we implemented it. Since then, we've implemented the avatars in some fresh projects where we were testing a couple of upgrades on our end. And that initial implementation without the upgrade was just so easy. It was an absolute breeze, as easy as any SDK implementation can get, honestly. One of the main things that I think surprised us when we were migrating was how customizable the avatars really were. So we had to implement a system to auto size some apparel, so the watches, the rings that we have, badges, because there is so much customization in these avatars that you can't just have one size fits all. You're going to have to migrate some of your stuff and make a system for that. So that was one of the more surprising things.
So we've heard from some developers that the range of customization and representation is really important to them and their users, as you were just explaining. But for others, it's more about the tracking functionality and the high quality expressiveness. So I would love to know what out-of-the-box features were most beneficial for your app in particular. Ryan, let's hear from the Golf Plus side.
Yeah. For us, it's really hard to compete with the customization that's available. Golf's an interesting activity because what you wear and kind of what you look like is a big part of it. There's no uniform in golf. Everyone gets to kind of wear something that matches their style. So having a third-party system that we could integrate that allows people to customize their look to the way that they want was huge, without us having to create all those options. That being said, tracking for us was kind of equally important and maybe arguably a little bit more important, mostly because we were really worried about, again, what was going to happen with being a one controller game, if we were going to be able to control the other hand and ensure that it lines up correctly. The other concern that we had is in our game, you're obviously doing a golf swing. And when you do that, your hands can go kind of behind your head or above your head, and you might lose tracking of the controller. Thankfully, it doesn't impact performance for us because you regain tracking before you hit the ball. But we were really curious about what was going to happen to the avatar when it loses track of the controller. Is it going to make some crazy assumptions? Are your hands going to get kind of wrapped around your head or end up in some funny positions that would break immersion? And thankfully, what we saw is it's very rare that it does sort of you either can't tell it loses tracking, or it makes great assumptions about where your hands are or should be and where your arms are or should be. So when you see someone swinging in Golf Plus, it looks like a legitimate golf swing. And one of the side benefits that we just never would have anticipated is a lot of, our team can kind of hop in with random people playing online. And after watching them swing one time, we're pretty good at kind of guessing what their handicap is in real life based on their golf swing because it translates over so well. So, for us, the tracking consistency was just beyond what we expected. But again, having the customization is just as important for expressiveness. So it's really hard to pick one over the other.
That's great to hear. I need to get in there and fix my golf swing. Cool. So, Dariush, for PokerStars VR, how about there?
Yeah, so for us, customization is key to any kind of avatar system where players want to represent themselves how they are. But for us, the main feature we're really excited about was getting a high quality, high performance avatar solution into our product without needing to allocate a large internal team to take that on. I think often people will underestimate how complex of a task it is to technically develop an avatar system of this complexity internally. And it's been awesome to have that pressure point just completely offloaded from the team. And technically, they're just getting better and better because they have a whole team assigned to them from Meta, and there's no signs of slowing down with some very exciting features coming in the pipeline. We have, in poker, you have so much is to it's important to have really, really high fidelity interactions, right? Because that's what enables the tells and et cetera. So getting that level of interaction is difficult building your own system. So the arms, everything just works so well with the Meta avatars for that. On top of that, the performance. We just launched our Casino 1 level, which has 12 people in it, and we're looking to increase that. And getting a highly performant avatar system that's this malleable, it's just not something we would be able to do internally. So that's been awesome.
Awesome. And Yaz, what about for FitXR?
Actually, the range of customization is definitely one of the most beneficial features. And in addition to that, as Darsh also mentioned before, being able to render the avatar's arms is a game changer because arms are not tracked. So the inverse kinematics system of the avatar is doing an amazing job estimating the arm's position. And as a result, avatars look and feel so natural. And maybe as an addition to this also, I should mention that we used the 32 sample avatars that come with the SDK. We utilized them in our community mode to represent the players who haven't created their meta avatars yet. And I think these are the most beneficial parts out of the box features that we utilize in FitXR.
That's great to hear. Thanks so much. Okay, so that brings us to our final question for today. What tips, tricks, or main learnings would you like to tell the audience, especially if they're considering integrating the Meta Avatar SDK into their app? Let's start with Ryan.
Yeah, this was something that we probably learned the hard way. I would say the biggest change for us is when we started to develop tooling that would allow us to kind of simulate what avatars look like in the editor without having to create builds that run on the Quest. One of the simplest things you can do, obviously, is use Oculus Link or Air Link so that you can, wear your headset while you're running in the editor and see what an avatar is going to do. Without the headset and the controllers, it's very hard to kind of predict what the avatar is going to look like. So I would highly recommend kind of developing some tools so that you can create those simulations. Thankfully, because we had the replay system, it allowed us to basically record all of your head and hand movements to a file. And then we were able to use that file to replay what you were doing and connect that to the avatar system pretty easily. That was huge for us when we were working on the code to determine whether your non-dominant hand should be kind of to your side or should be connected to the club. We were able to kind of create these recordings of a bunch of different scenarios that we thought would be difficult to solve for. And then purely in the editor, without putting the headset on, we were able to run through all of those scenarios and ensure that our solution covered everything. Anytime we ran into a new scenario where something wouldn't connect the way we expected, we could, create a new recording and then solve it in the editor. So that allowed us to have these very robust kind of test cases to ensure that things were working the way that we intended. Lastly, we're a multiplayer experience, so there's always networking. Testing multiplayer is always a lot more time consuming than single player stuff. Rather than having to find multiple people to kind of do that testing and get everyone in certain scenarios, we ended up creating some code that would allow us to take your avatar motion and kind of simulate creating a multiplayer character that was just, shown directly on top of where you were. So you'd be able to simulate someone being in multiplayer. It would still run through the networking pipeline, and you'd kind of see where everything would show up as if it was a multiplayer character. And that allowed us to just make sure that everything was lining up the way we expected, and you kind of get a perspective of what it's going to look like without having to find multiple people to test with. So I would definitely encourage developers to invest in some tooling to create kind of as much simulation within the editor as possible, since there are a bunch of scenarios that you can kind of run into that are difficult to debug in real time.
That's really great to know, and I'm sure a lot of the developers who are listening to this will find that very helpful. So thank you. And yes?
Once actually you have a comprehensive understanding of the capabilities of the SDK, it becomes quite clear how to integrate the avatars in the best way possible to your project. In our case, we also had a couple of points that we needed to implement some workarounds. For instance, while working on this integration, we decided to improve our multiplayer lobby experience by replacing the 2D profile images of our players with their meta avatars. And as a design decision, we wanted to keep avatars anchored to their dedicated slots in the lobby. And in the SDK, we couldn't find the functionality that would allow us to do that. And eventually, we developed a workaround by using Avatar's critical joins feature, which is a feature that already exists in the SDK. So Avatar SDK is a powerful tool. Maybe there are not immediate solutions, but since there are lots of features that you can tweak and change based on your needs. So I definitely recommend experimenting with it before starting the actual integration.
Cool. Thanks. And Dariush?
For me, what I'd say is, understand what you're trying to actually accomplish here with an Avatar SDK. If you're a single player game with a specific character, maybe this isn't the right fit. But if you're building an online multiplayer game, or a game that just needs a customizable avatar and a system for that, and a robust system for that, and you're not a massive studio with a ton of resources, the Meta Avatars SDK is single-handedly the most powerful, comprehensive solution available on the entire market. And the rapid improvements you get are something that you won't get anywhere else. So if you're looking for something like that, with giving players a level of customizability and a level of fidelity and a level of performance that you need to get performance on the Meta Quest, I would go with the Avatars SDK.
Fantastic. Thanks. Okay, so that brings us to the end, and I just want to say how much I enjoyed talking about each of your unique experiences with the Meta Avatar SDK and how your users are using the avatars in really creative ways, like feedback on their golf swing technique or sharing VR avatar memes on social media, even just tapping into the large range of customization and representation options. It's really wonderful to hear. And we've heard all these great tips on how the Meta Avatar SDK can be integrated and enhance the user's overall experience. So I would first like to say thank you to the audience. For those of you who would like to learn more about how the Meta Avatar SDK can enhance your app experience, as well as what resources are available to you, please go and check out our Avatar developer page. Then to our panelists, Ryan, Yaz, Dariush, thank you so much for coming today. It was incredibly insightful, and we look forward to continuing deepening our relationship with you, and of course, seeing what you build next in the metaverse. Thanks.